there is a quiet power in restraint that most people never discover. In a world where everyone is eager to speak, to vent, to be heard, the rare individual chooses silence, not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand the sacredness of their inner world. When you tell people your problems, you assume they will carry your burden with compassion. But the truth is, most people are not built to hold what you are carrying. Some will listen with curiosity, not care. Some will listen and secretly measure you, and others will take your vulnerability and store it as a reference point of your weakness. This is not bitterness, this is awareness. Your struggles are not meant to be public conversations, they are private classrooms. Every problem you face has been assigned to you for refinement, not for display. When you speak about it too soon, you interrupt the process. You leak energy that was meant to build you. Understand this deeply. Every time you complain, you reinforce the identity of someone who is overwhelmed. Every time you repeat your pain, you carve it deeper into your mind. Words are not harmless. They shape perception. They create identity. So ask yourself, are you speaking to heal or are you speaking to be seen? There is a difference. The disciplined mind does not rush to express everything it feels. It observes, it processes, it transforms. It understands that emotions are temporary, but the consequences of expression can be permanent. Silence is not suppression. Silence is mastery. When you hold your problems within, something powerful begins to happen. You are forced to confront yourself. No distractions, no validation, no escape, just you and the truth. And in that space, clarity is born. You begin to see patterns. You begin to understand your reactions. You begin to refine your thinking. This is where real growth lives, not in conversations, but in contemplation. Most people never reach this level because they dilute their experiences by sharing them too quickly. They trade depth for attention. They seek comfort instead of transformation. But you are not here for comfort. You are here to evolve. There is also another truth you must accept. When you constantly share your problems, you unconsciously lower your perceived strength. People may sympathize, but they will not rely on you. They will not trust your stability. And over time, even you will begin to see yourself through the lens of struggle instead of strength. Guard your narrative. You are not your problems. But if you keep speaking about them, you will begin to believe that you are. Instead, become the person who moves in silence and transforms in private. Let your results speak. Let your composure speak. Let your presence communicate what your words no longer need to. Not everyone deserves access to your internal world. Access is earned, not given freely. Discernment is not arrogance, it is wisdom. When you stop telling people your problems, you start listening to something deeper within yourself. A voice that is not influenced by noise. A voice that is not seeking approval. A voice that guides you toward solutions instead of sympathy. That voice is your power. And the more you trust it, the less you will feel the need to explain yourself to the world. So the next time you feel the urge to speak about your struggles, pause. Ask yourself, will this strengthen me or weaken me? If it weakens you, remain silent. If it strengthens you, speak with intention, not emotion. Because not everything you go through needs to be heard. Some things are meant to be transformed in silence and revealed only through who you become. There is a form of strength that does not announce itself. It does not seek attention, sympathy, or recognition. It moves quietly, protecting what is sacred within. Your energy, your thoughts, your emotions, your inner state is one of the most valuable assets you possess. Yet most people give it away carelessly, speaking about their struggles to anyone willing to listen, not realizing that every word spoken without awareness is a leak of power. When you choose silence over unnecessary exposure, you are not denying yourself expression. You are choosing preservation over depletion. Not every thought deserves to be spoken. Not every emotion needs an audience. There is a discipline in pausing, in observing what you feel without immediately turning it into words. Because once something is spoken, it leaves your control. It enters the perception of others, where it can be misunderstood, judged, or diminished. Energy is subtle, but its effects are undeniable. The more you talk about your problems, the more you relive them. You reinforce the emotional weight attached to them. You keep them alive in your mind. But when you hold your energy inward, something shifts. Instead of scattering your focus outward, you begin to concentrate it. You start processing instead of projecting. This is where transformation begins. Most people believe that talking about their problems will bring relief. And sometimes, in the right environment, it can. But constant exposure to the wrong ears creates the opposite effect. It drains you. It weakens your sense of self. It conditions you to depend on external validation instead of internal clarity. Silence, on the other hand, forces you to build a relationship with yourself. It removes the habit of seeking immediate comfort through others. It pushes you to sit with your discomfort, to understand it, to refine it. This is not easy. It requires patience. It requires emotional maturity. But it also builds a level of resilience that cannot be shaken by external opinions. When you protect your energy, you become more intentional with your words. You no longer speak to fill space or to gain attention. You speak with purpose. Your words carry weight because they are not overused. People begin to feel your presence differently, not because you say more, but because you say less with greater clarity. There is also a deeper layer to this. Not everyone who listens to you has pure intentions. Some people are drawn to your struggles not to support you, but to measure you. Some compare, some judge, some quietly diminish your strength in their minds. When you expose yourself without discernment, you give others the power to define you in ways that may not align with your truth. Protecting your energy means understanding that your inner world is not public property. It is a sacred space that requires boundaries. Just as you would not leave your door open for anyone to walk into your home, you should not allow unrestricted access to your thoughts and emotions. This does not mean isolation. It means selectivity. It means knowing that there is a difference between expressing yourself to grow and exposing yourself out of habit. The strongest individuals are not those who speak the most about their struggles, but those who learn how to carry them with awareness, process them with discipline, and transform them with intention. They understand that energy, once protected, becomes power. And power, when directed inward, becomes growth. So choose your silence wisely. Not as a form of avoidance, but as a form of control. Not as a way to hide, but as a way to build. Because when you stop exposing everything, you start cultivating something deeper, something that cannot be shaken, something that does not depend on anyone else. And that is where true strength begins. There is a hard truth that many people resist accepting. Not everyone is meant to understand your struggles. This is not because your struggles are insignificant, and it is not because people are inherently unkind. It is because understanding requires alignment of experience, depth, awareness, and perception. And most people simply do not meet you at that level. When you go through something difficult, there is a natural desire to be understood. You want someone to see what you feel, to recognize the weight you are carrying, to validate your experience. But when you offer your story to the wrong person, you do not receive understanding, you receive interpretation. And interpretation is shaped by their limitations, not your truth. Someone who has never faced your kind of struggle will often reduce it. They may offer simple advice for a complex situation. They may compare it to something smaller. They may even dismiss it without realizing it, not out of malice, but out of lack of depth. And in that moment, instead of feeling supported, you feel more isolated. This is why discernment is essential. Not everyone has the capacity to hold your reality. Some people are only equipped for surface-level conversations. They engage with life in a way that avoids depth, avoids discomfort, avoids complexity. When you bring something profound into that space, it does not land properly. It gets distorted, simplified, or overlooked. And if you are not careful, you will begin to question yourself. You will start to think, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe it is not that serious. Maybe I am the problem. This is the danger of seeking understanding in the wrong places. You allow someone else's limited perception to reshape your awareness. But your experience is yours for a reason. Every challenge you face has been given to you specifically, because you have the capacity to grow through it. Not everyone is meant to walk that path with you. Some journeys are designed to be internal. Some lessons are meant to be learned in solitude, where outside voices cannot interfere with your process. There is also another layer to this truth. Some people may understand your words, but not your intention. They hear what you say, but they do not feel what you feel. And without that emotional alignment, their response will always fall short. It will lack the depth you are seeking. So what do? You stop expecting universal understanding. You release the need for everyone to get you. You accept that being misunderstood is part of walking a path of growth. And instead of wasting energy trying to explain yourself to those who cannot meet you, you redirect that energy inward. Because the most important understanding is not external, it is internal. When you understand yourself, when you become clear about what you feel and why you feel it, you no longer depend on others to validate your experience. You stand firm in your awareness, you trust your perception, you move with certainty, even when others do not see what you see. This is power. It frees you from the cycle of over-explaining, oversharing, and over-seeking approval. It allows you to preserve your energy for what truly matters: growth, clarity, and transformation. And when you do choose to share, you become more intentional. You speak to those who have proven their depth, their wisdom, their ability to listen without judgment. You do not speak to be understood by everyone, you speak to be aligned with the right few. Because not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Understanding is not something you should chase from the crowd. It is something you cultivate within yourself and share selectively. And once you accept that not everyone is meant to understand your struggles, you stop feeling the need to prove them. You simply outgrow the need to explain. There is a quiet discipline in speaking, less than most people underestimate. In a world that rewards constant expression, where every thought is shared and every emotion is displayed, the ability to remain composed, to hold your words, becomes a rare form of strength. Speaking less is not about becoming distant or disconnected. It is about developing control over your inner world so that your words are no longer driven by impulse, but guided by awareness. Every time you feel something intensely, there is an urge to release it through speech, to explain, to justify, to react. But this immediate expression often comes at a cost. When you speak without filtering, you give your emotions authority over your actions. You allow temporary feelings to dictate permanent words, and once spoken, those words cannot be taken back. They shape how others see you, and more importantly, how you begin to see yourself. Emotional discipline begins in the pause, that moment where you feel something rising within you, yet you choose not to express it immediately. Instead, you observe it, you sit with it, you allow it to pass through you without turning it into a reaction. This is not suppression. Suppression ignores emotion. Discipline acknowledges it, but does not surrender to it. The more you practice this, the stronger you become, because you start to realize that not every emotion deserves a response. Not every thought deserves a voice. Many of the things you feel are temporary waves, influenced by your environment, your mood, your state of mind in that moment. If you speak every time a wave arises, you will live in constant reaction, constantly adjusting, constantly unstable. But when you choose silence, you give yourself time to stabilize. You begin to see your emotions more clearly. You separate what is real from what is momentary. You respond instead of react. And this shift, though subtle, changes everything. Speaking less also sharpens your awareness. When you are not constantly focused on expressing yourself, you become more attentive to what is happening around you. You listen more deeply. You observe patterns in people. You notice what is said and what is left unsaid. This heightened awareness gives you an advantage not over others, but over your own impulses. You become more intentional. Your words are no longer scattered. They are precise. They carry meaning because they are chosen carefully. And when you do speak, people listen not because you demand attention, but because your restraint has created value in your voice. There is also a deeper transformation that takes place internally. When you reduce unnecessary speech, you conserve mental and emotional energy. That energy, instead of being spent on constant expression, begins to accumulate. And with that accumulation comes clarity, focus, and strength. You feel less drained, less reactive, more centered. Most people exhaust themselves not through action, but through uncontrolled expression, overthinking, over-explaining, oversharing. They live in a constant state of emotional output, leaving little room for reflection or growth. But when you speak less, you create space, space to think, space to understand, space to grow. This space becomes your foundation. It allows you to build a stronger relationship with yourself. You become less dependent on external conversations to process your inner world. You develop the ability to navigate your thoughts and emotions independently. And that is true emotional strength. It is not loud, it is not visible, but it is unshakable. Because when you master your speech, you begin to master your mind. And when your mind is disciplined, your actions follow with precision. So do not feel the need to fill every silence. Do not rush to express every thought. Learn to be comfortable in stillness. Learn to trust that not everything needs to be said. Because in speaking less, you are not losing your voice. You are refining it into something far more powerful. Most people treat their problems as something to be displayed, explained, and validated by others. They speak about their struggles as if the purpose of pain is to be witnessed, as if the weight they carry becomes lighter when it is seen by many eyes. But this understanding is incomplete. Your problems are not given to you for public validation, they are given to you for private transformation. Every challenge you face carries a lesson that is specifically designed for your growth. It is not random, it is not meaningless, it is precise. And that precision requires your full attention. When you rush to share your problems with others, you divide that attention. Instead of going inward and asking, "What is this here to teach me?" you go outward, asking, "Who will understand me?" This shift may seem small, but it changes the entire direction of your growth. Validation feels comforting. When someone agrees with you, when they say yes, that is hard, or you are right to feel this way, it creates a temporary sense of relief. But relief is not transformation. It soothes the surface without addressing the depth. It calms the emotion without evolving the mind. Transformation, on the other hand, requires solitude. It requires you to sit with your problem without distraction, to examine it honestly, to ask difficult questions. Where did this begin? What patterns led here? What part of me needs to change? These are not questions that can be answered in conversation. They require stillness. They require courage. They require a willingness to face yourself without filters. When you keep your problems private, you protect the integrity of this process. You allow yourself to fully engage with the experience without outside opinions shaping your perception. Because once you involve others, their perspectives begin to influence you. They may project their fears, their biases, their limitations onto your situation. And slowly, your problem becomes a mixture of your reality and their interpretation. This creates confusion. Instead of clarity, you are left sorting through conflicting advice, trying to determine what feels right. And in that confusion, the original lesson becomes harder to see. But in solitude, the lesson reveals itself more clearly. You begin to see your role in the situation, not from a place of blame, but from a place of ownership. You recognize the areas where you need to grow. You identify the habits, the thoughts, the reactions that must be refined. And with that awareness, you begin to change. This is transformation. It is not loud, it is not visible, it does not require an audience, but it is powerful. Because when you transform privately, the results show publicly. Your behavior shifts, your decisions improve, your presence becomes stronger, and people notice the outcome, even if they never knew the struggle behind it. There is also a deeper strength in solving your problems without seeking constant validation. It builds self-trust. You begin to rely on your own judgment. You learn to navigate difficulty without needing reassurance at every step. This independence creates a foundation that cannot be shaken by external opinions. You become grounded. And once you are grounded, you are no longer easily influenced. You do not change direction because someone disagrees with you. You do not lose confidence because someone fails to understand you. You remain steady because your growth is rooted in your own awareness, not in the approval of others. This does not mean you never seek guidance. There is wisdom in learning from those who are experienced, those who have depth and clarity. But even then, you seek guidance with intention, not validation out of habit, because validation keeps you where you are. Transformation moves you forward. So the next time you face a problem, resist the urge to immediately share it. Instead, turn inward, sit with it, study it. Let it reveal what needs to be changed within you. Because your problems are not interruptions in your life. They are invitations. Not to be seen by others, but to be understood by you. There is a subtle shift that happens when you begin to share too much of your inner world without restraint. At first, it feels harmless, just speaking, just expressing, just letting things out. But over time, something deeper begins to erode. Your sense of authority, your presence, the way others perceive your strength, that all starts to weaken in ways that are not immediately visible, but deeply felt. Oversharing is not just communication. It is exposure without discernment. When you reveal your problems to too many people, you may find it difficult to keep them to yourself. Especially without intention, you give others fragments of your unfinished self. You allow them to see you in moments of confusion, instability, and vulnerability, states that are natural, but not meant for public consumption. These moments are part of your process, not your identity. But when you expose them too often, people begin to associate you with those states, and slowly, your authority diminishes. Authority is not built by appearing perfect. It is built by demonstrating control, composure, and clarity. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing yourself and managing your internal world with discipline. But when you constantly share your struggles without resolution, you present yourself as someone still lost in the problem, rather than someone capable of rising above it. People may listen, they may even sympathize, but sympathy is not the same as respect. Respect comes from stability, from consistency, from the ability to face challenges without making them your entire narrative. When you overshare, you unintentionally shift how people see you. They may begin to question your reliability, your emotional strength, your ability to handle pressure. And even if they never say it, you will feel it. Because deep down, you will start to feel it too. Every time you repeat your problems, you reinforce them within yourself. You make them more familiar, more dominant in your identity. Instead of being something you are working through, they become something you are known for. And this is where the real danger lies, not in what others think of you, but in what you begin to believe about yourself. You start to see yourself through the lens of struggle. You begin to define your reality by your difficulties instead of your potential. And this internal shift affects how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you act. Your energy changes, your confidence weakens, your presence loses its sharpness. All of this begins with a lack of restraint. There is also another layer to consider: judgment. Not everyone who listens to you is neutral. Some people consciously or unconsciously judge. They compare your situation to their own. They measure your reactions. They form opinions about your decisions. And once those opinions are formed, they are difficult to change. When you overshare, you give people more material to interpret you through. You open doors for misunderstanding, for misjudgment, for labels that may not reflect who you truly are. And once a perception is created, it lingers. This is why restraint is not weakness, it is strategy. When you choose not to share everything, you maintain control over your narrative. You decide what is seen, what is known, what is understood. You present yourself from a place of awareness, not reaction. This does not mean you hide your struggles. It means you refine them before you reveal them. You speak from clarity, not confusion. You share from strength, not from emotional overflow. And this distinction changes everything. Because when people see you as composed, as intentional, as someone who handles challenges with quiet strength, your presence naturally commands respect. Your words carry more weight. Your actions speak louder. You are no longer seen as someone overwhelmed by life, but as someone who navigates it with control. This is authority. It is not loud. It does not seek validation. It does not rely on constant expression. It is built through discipline, through restraint, through an understanding that not everything needs to be shared. So be mindful of what you reveal, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Because your inner world is powerful. And when you protect it, refine it, and present it with intention, you do not just avoid judgment, you elevate your presence into something that others naturally respect, without you ever having to demand it. There is a kind of growth that the world will never applaud, because it happens where no one is looking. It does not make noise. It does not seek recognition. It unfolds quietly, within the depths of your own awareness. And yet, this is the growth that changes everything. This is the growth that builds real strength. Most people have been conditioned to believe that progress must be visible to be real. They announce their intentions, share their struggles, and display every step of their journey, as if validation from others is part of the process. But true evolution does not require an audience. In fact, the more private your growth is, the more powerful it becomes. Quiet resilience is the ability to endure, adapt, and rise without constant expression. It is the decision to face your challenges without turning them into a performance. It is choosing to work through your difficulties without needing others to witness your effort. This is not about isolation. It is about internalization. When you stop broadcasting your struggles, you create a deeper connection with your own process. You begin to rely on yourself in a way that most people never do. Instead of looking outward for reassurance, you look inward for solutions. Instead of seeking comfort in being understood, you find strength in understanding yourself. And this changes the way you experience hardship. Difficult moments no longer feel like something to escape or explain. They become something to study, something to move through with awareness. You begin to observe your reactions, your thoughts, your patterns. You become more present with what is happening within you, rather than distracted by how it appears to others. This presence builds resilience. Because resilience is not just about enduring pain, it is about learning from it. It is about allowing challenges to shape you, not break you. And this kind of learning requires silence. It requires space. It requires you to sit with discomfort long enough for it to reveal its purpose. When you constantly speak about your struggles, you interrupt this process. You release the tension too quickly. You seek relief before understanding. And while that may feel good in the moment, it delays your growth. But when you remain quiet, when you allow yourself to fully experience and process what you are going through, something deeper begins to form. You develop patience. You develop clarity. You develop control over how you respond to life. And over time, this quiet resilience becomes part of who you are. It shows in the way you carry yourself, in the way you handle pressure, in the way you remain steady when things around you are uncertain. People may not know what you have been through, but they will feel your strength. They will notice your composure. They will sense that there is something grounded and unshakable within you. This is the power of silent growth. It does not need to prove itself, because it is evident in your presence. There is also a purity in growing without external noise. When no one is watching, your intentions become clearer. You are not performing. You are not trying to impress. You are not adjusting your journey based on how it will be perceived. You are simply evolving for the sake of becoming better. And this authenticity strengthens your foundation, because your growth is no longer dependent on motivation from others. It is driven by something internal, something consistent, something reliable. You no longer need encouragement to continue. You no longer need recognition to feel progress. You trust your process, even when it is invisible. This trust is rare, and it is what separates those who truly evolve from those who only appear to. So embrace the quiet path. Embrace the unseen effort. Embrace the moments where no one knows what you are carrying or what you are building within yourself. Because it is in those moments that the real transformation takes place. Not in what you say, not in what you show, but in what you silently become.